You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partners Show. We're a podcast on Spreaker, so look us up on that. We have Helene Epstein on the show again on the podcast. Helene has been in this arena for quite a long time, unfortunately, because of different things that happened to her and her family in the healthcare industry, and that is why Jeannie Roller, my co-host, and I started this podcast to try to help ourselves and in the same time help anyone else that has had these same infractions. I don't even know what the right word is anymore, Helene and Jeannie, because it just keeps going on and on and on, and healthcare system needs to be fixed. We know that. And at one point, and probably still at many points, we get angry about this because it did happen to us. We couldn't believe it. I think about it some days and I'm like, I don't even know how doctors did this, how facilities did this, how it was allowed to go on. And Helene, you have been in this, like I said, for quite a while. We did a podcast with you a little while ago talking about some of this stuff. And there's so many subjects, sadly, so many interventions, sadly, that have to be made with this. And we want to talk today about how turning that anger that we've all felt, turning that anger into action on how we can move to the next step and help ourselves and help this stop happening to other people. So, Helene, welcome again. I appreciate it. And let's talk about it.
Thank you, Cindy and Jeannie, and I'm looking forward to discussing this with you. So as you mentioned, on September 30th, we recorded a podcast called The Enormity of Medical Harm. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about the size of the problem. And today, let's talk about what we as patients can do to fix healthcare. How do we heal ourselves by healing others? So as we know, there's millions of people in the US who have been harmed, whether it's a diagnostic error or a treatment error or a surgeon's mistake. And they're angry, they're frustrated, they're stuck in a cycle of blame and seeking justice, just like I was when my son where my dad was harmed terribly by medication error. But as we know, anger in and of itself it's problematic. So for years, not knowing what I know now, I blamed my individual doctors for all of it. But then I started to learn about the training, systemic, and cognitive errors that actually were at play, that the majority of the problems are not an individual evil doctor. Right. It is a system problem. Mm-hmm. And so in 2015, which was 7 years after we finally figured out what was happening with my son, I chose to focus on helping others by doing my bit. So just to talk to your listeners, if you are still in limbo, if you're still figuring out what the diagnosis is or what the treatment is, then just focus on solving it for yourself. That should be your primary focus. But what comes after, when the answers are found and you're left with the anger of being harmed by the very person you sought help from? Mm-hmm. Now, you know, because you have this fantastic podcast, that anger can be a tool. It can move us to ask questions, to take action, to find solutions. I'm sure, Cindy and Jeannie, it was your fuel like it was my fuel for years. And I accomplished some things until I realized I wasn't moving past the pain that I had experienced while fighting for my son's life.
Yeah.
But what I learned is anger can be a trap and it can harm you mentally and physically, like now or later. So you could get stuck in the anger. It can cause, it can impact your brain. It can cause poor decision making. It can erode your communication skills. It can actually produce stress hormones that raise your blood pressure and clog your arteries. I mean, there's so many negative impacts of staying angry.
Right.
So how do we do it? How do we turn this anger into action and feel better about taking that mistake and using it to help others?
Right.
So the very first thing is what went wrong? Like not in a specific small way about a specific medication, but what was the actual issue at play here? Was it a rare disease? Then maybe what's needed are dollars for research and education. If the disease was common and the diagnosis was delayed, then maybe you're looking at issues about education or cognitive errors. If a medication error or a surgical error happened, then that has to become your focus. So if you can articulate a problem, then you can focus on the next 3 steps. So 3 steps. The first one, the easy entry point, is to volunteer for an existing cause-related nonprofit, which gives you a little more control over your time if you're still dealing with the ramifications of having been harmed. So you have to find the right organization that's focused on the same issue that you experienced. And, easy things. Go on and do an online search for keywords. Like if it was medication error, you can type in find nonprofit group for medication error. And the thing you have to watch out for, of course, are the malpractice attorney groups who buy Google listings pretending to be a nonprofit. You don't want to go there.
Yeah.
You can ask ChatGPT. This is a good use of AI. You can type in list nonprofit groups focused on medication error where I can volunteer. I tested it, and it will direct you to at least 5 noteworthy nonprofit organizations. I tried it for different things like diagnostic error, for specific diseases, for certain rare diseases, and it will always list nonprofit organizations that you can then contact with their contact information. If you just want something that's local, you can change it to organizations active in your area. And, of course, if you can't find a nonprofit that takes volunteers, you can just always get on their mailing list for regular updates about what they're doing and how they're doing, and see if you can help amplify their messages.
Interrupt you for a second. That's the key thing, is to be active, to be proactive, and it kind of eases the anger. I know you're absolutely right. Mine was communication problems, and I didn't realize it. And so, work on it, and it does ease your anger. I found that. So go ahead, Helene.
Yeah, so the second thing is exactly what you guys are doing. You're sharing your knowledge. You can do it with family and friends or your church group. You can post it on social media or make a TikTok video. You chose to create a podcast, and that podcast is reaching so many people. It's really essential. What I'm trying to teach people to do, though, is to keep it to just a few hundred words, which is so much harder than it sounds. If you can edit your story to its essentials, a beginning, a middle, and an end, that will help distract your anger, and it will also communicate problems and issues to other people. And then lastly, you could volunteer at your local hospital, even the one who harmed you or your loved one. Because most hospitals have something known as a Patient Family Advisory Council. It's shorthand, we call it a PFAC, Patient Family Advisory Council, PFAC. And you can check your hospital and see if they have a PFAC. And at its most basic, it's a group of current and former patients and family members. It's convened by the hospital, and you collaborate with hospital staff to improve the care experience. They focus on patient and provider relationships. They focus on institutional review boards, quality improvement initiatives, and patient education. And it's a fantastic way to get involved at the local level. And actually, instead of just carping about this horrible thing that happened, because we all feel this pain, you can help make certain your hospital doesn't do it again. Right.
That's the key thing that we all want to ease our mind with, is to try to make certain it doesn't happen again. Is it a perfect world? No, it's not. It isn't a perfect world. People do make honest mistakes. They do. Doctors, lawyers, we all do. So those are really key points that you make, Helene. I appreciate it. We have like 40 seconds left. So just real quick, do you have a wrap up?
I just think that all of us, the two of you and the people I work with, the advocates, the patient volunteers, the professionals, the researchers, we're urging the public to join our efforts to fix healthcare. You can reach out to anybody on LinkedIn and ask them questions, and everyone will be happy to help you identify how you can participate in the groups that exist, or direct you to someone who can guide you better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I know Jeannie's listening in on all of this, and I can hear her head nodding and saying yes, because we've done this for a while. Like I said, we're just regular people that this happened to, and we decided to try to help other people to move this forward and hopefully have it not happen again. On that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.